please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
A quarter of its loan book gone bad, a net loss of over 5,600 crores in just the fourth quarter, a shrinkage of its international operations. IDBI Bank clearly finds itself in choppy waters, and the government is hoping to be able to find a solution. Reports indicate that IDBI and LIC are in talks, and that LIC may in fact pick up a significant minority stake in IDBI Bank. For more on this, let's go across to my colleague Kritika Saxena. Kritika, it's unusual that the government is looking at LIC to try and find a solution for IDBI Bank, but what are you picking up?
Well, just to put this into perspective first, LIC already has an 11% stake in IDBI Bank. So if at all they do look at doing this, they will be hiking stakes. So yes, we have been able to confirm from our sources that the LIC and the government are in talks at this point in time to increase that quantum. Now, LIC has a cap of investing in any individual company, and that is 15%. So if they have to increase that, they have to have the necessary shareholding. But at this point in time, we understand that the talks have reached the Investment and Strategy Committee. Now, as per the procedure and how LIC works before making any investment is that they have to get a clearance from the Investment and Strategy Committee. The Investment and Strategy Committee is the team that does the due diligence to understand the pricing, to understand any kind of contours before they actually make an investment, even if it is a government entity. Now, over here, we understand that after the committee clears this, only then is it going to go to the board, and then a quantum will be decided. So, significant minority typically means below 25%, but the quantum again is only going to be decided at a later date. Till date, we haven't seen LIC make a controlling stake investment in any individual company. So, if at all it had to come to that, there will be a lot of negotiations, a lot of changes of the current norms of RBI approvals from IRDA that will be required. So at this point in time, significant minority is what is being discussed. We don't know how things will progress based on the negotiation, and we'll of course keep our viewers updated.
Okay. Kritika, appreciate you joining us with that. This is, of course, source-based information to take this conversation forward. We're now joined by BP Sharma, former ED at Bank of Baroda. Also with me, my colleague Ritu Singh. Mr. Sharma, appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV18. What do you make of this possibility of the government looking at LIC to, in a sense, pick up a significant minority stake in IDBI Bank? What purpose will this solve, with the exception of the government adding to its kitty?
See, of course, the news is speculative, but even otherwise, the government is definitely keen to reduce its stake in IDBI Bank, which is not coming in strictly in the category of public sector bank. It's a different entity. And because of this present balance sheet and everything, probably privatization as a route is not feasible in the near future. So this is what they're trying to reduce the government stake, and I think that there is nothing wrong in that.
No, Mr. Sharma, I'm not suggesting that there's anything wrong with the government bringing down its stake in IDBI Bank. In fact, this is a budgetary commitment that the government has made. The Finance Minister, Mr. Jaitley, in his last budget made that commitment, and this has been on the table for almost the last 3 years. The question is it right to get LIC to pick up more stake? They already hold 11%. Is it right for the government to offload stake to LIC? If it were to come down to that.
See, if it comes down to that, somewhere this tax sale has to start up. Probably this will be a step, and eventually other stake can be sold by government to other entities. There's somewhere initial push. Because government is having huge holding on IDBI, and presently probably there is no taker. So obviously government is asking one of its public sector entity to take a stake.
Explain to us how offloading stake to another public sector entity is starting up the process of divesting IDBI Bank.
See, if they succeed in raising the cap of IDBI LIC's investment and go up to 20%, then the board of directors of IDBI undergoes a change. Today it is fully government controlled. So once that entity undergoes some change from a pure government entity to a different type of entity, probably other investors will come forward. That must be the expectation or strategy. And by the way, I'm from Bank of India, not Bank of Baroda.
My apologies, sir. My apologies. Ritu?
Well, Mr. Sharma, let me weigh in on this again. You're from a public sector bank, although other public banks are governed by the BR Act. There's also a special law for IDBI Bank. But even then, even if you're to assume that the government is looking to sell its stake to LIC, how does it even work from a regulatory point of view? LIC's shareholding in any other company is capped at 15%. RBI says that no entity can hold more than 10% stake in a bank. So how will this work from a regulatory point of view?
See, the IDA, the RBI, the board of IDBI, and the government, they can meet, and there can be regulatory forbearance for IDBI. See, not a theoretical proposition. There can be regulatory forbearance.
Well, it will have to be regulatory forbearance if they decide to take this route, because LIC, the cap is at 15%. So if they need to extend beyond that, there will have to be regulatory forbearance. But let me go across to A.K. Bhattacharya of the Business Standard. AKB, this is unusual. The government is looking at the possibility of LIC being the savior of some sort as far as IDBI Bank is concerned. I mean, what do you make of this possible solution?
Well, this is, fake disinvestment at its worst, because essentially what it means is the government is trying to shore up its disinvestment revenues through this deal. Around 10,000 to 11,000 crore is likely to be garnered through this sale. I think Life Insurance Corporation has got resources. That's right. But after all, they have got the pensioners and the insurance policyholders' money with them. They need to be very sure that their investment needs to be safe, sound, and prudent. I see this attempt using regulatory forbearance to get the country's largest insurer to have a stake in a bank that was supposed to have been privatized in the first instance is a failure on the part of the government to have carried out its mandate, carried out its earlier decision to privatize the bank. Now you cannot privatize it. Therefore, you are actually, asking the country's largest state-owned insurer, life insurer, to take a stake. Now, and you are expecting there will be regulatory forbearance. I hope IRDA, Insurance Regulatory Development Authority, takes necessary note of this. And it is not a good sign. It's not a good thing. How can anybody actually say that this is a kosher deal? This is not kosher because this raises many issues at various levels. It is the insurance with policyholders' money. So I don't see there's anything right in this entire proposal.
You're right that this idea of privatizing IDBI Bank has been on the table for over 3 years now.
More than 2 years.
Commitment, as I pointed out, that Mr. Jaitley made in his budget as well. But the fact of the matter is that, the regulator, whether it's the IRDA or the RBI, should they not put their foot down? Because while it might give the government, an additional boost to its kitty, what does this achieve in terms of IDBI Bank? And what does it mean for LIC? I mean, IDBI Bank, just for Q4, 5,600 crores in losses, shrinking of operations. I mean, this bank is going through choppy times. Why should LIC invest more, even after holding 11%?
This is LIC has always been traditionally the instrument by which the government for the last several years have been using for meeting its disinvestment targets. And I think if this deal goes through, then it will set a very bad precedent. For all you know, that Air India will start to be privatized once again through this LIC money. It is not a good precedent. IDBI Bank needs to be actually, in my view, the best way of settling IDBI Bank should be to actually go in for a proper bid for privatization, and maybe if it is there are no takers for it, there is no proper competitive bid for it, then ask IDBI Bank to downsize its balance sheet, become a narrow bank, so that you reduce your exposure, reduce your business, reduce your lending and deposit taking activities. There is no reason for IDBI Bank to exist with the help of LIC money, which is policyholders' money.
Ritu?
In fact, Mr. Bhattacharya, just today we had reported that IDBI Bank is actually in the market to sell 21,000 crore rupees of its total bad loans, which is about 55,000 crore rupees at the moment. Do you think something like a stressed asset stabilization fund would work for IDBI Bank? This is something that the government had done in 2004 when IDBI was converted into a bank in the first place?
Well, the bad bank idea is a bad idea. There is no doubt about it, because you have a bad bank. Who will take equity in it? The government will take an equity in it. You don't need the professionals bandwidth in this country, which will be able to manage these bad assets. So I don't think a bad bank idea will work in this country. There are many risks, many problems. So therefore, it is best to use IBC, the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, to address the problem of the leveraged the companies, the stressed assets. And if the banks are in trouble, then force them and guide them to a path where they become narrow banks, and so that their risks are limited.
Right, just on the point that you made, AKB, on the bad bank being a bad idea, the conversation that I had with the SBI chief, Rajneesh Kumar, where he says the need of the hour is a national AMC, and he seemed to suggest that government will only play facilitator and banks would actually provide equity in proportion to the risk appetite that they have. But we have to wait for the Mehta Committee's recommendations, which are expected shortly, on whether this ARC or AMC route is what the government takes. But Rajneesh Kumar was clear, AMC need of the hour, and perhaps it will start by picking up the 9 distressed power sector assets that have been identified. Well, we've been reaching out to the Finance Ministry as well as to LIC for an official comment on whether there is truth to this story. So far, there has been no confirmation, but there has been no denial either. So that is where things currently stand as far as the possibility of LIC picking up an even higher stake in IDBI Bank. Mr. Sharma and AKB, appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV18. We'll take a break, but there's a lot more coming up. Stay right there.